Welcome back to the Own Your Awkward podcast. I'm your host, Andy Vargo, and every episode we get into what has made our guests vulnerable and how they've learned how to own their awkward in order to live their best life. Stay tuned so you can hear every awkward moment in today's show. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Own Your Awkward podcast. I'm your host, Andy Vargo, and today we have Tim Marlowe with BD Local. How you doing today, Tim?
Man, I am doing super fantastic, Andy. Thank you for having us on, man.
Hey, I am so glad you made it on. It's a pleasure to have you on. Super fantastic. That is awesome. I love that. No questions there about how life's going, right?
No, not at all, my friend. It's been blessed. Continue to looking towards a vision and just sticking around close people that are just helping us out. So it's been a super fantastic year so far.
That is great. Yeah. Well, so Tim and I have just gotten to know each other the last couple of months, and we've got some great stuff going on together. Tim, why don't you share with the listeners a little bit about yourself and what you're doing?
Sure. Give you a little bit about my past and to kind of jumpstart the last 28 years to the last 5. So originally from Charleston, South Carolina, born and raised, and around the age of 21 decided to join the military. And so I served in the Army for about 5 years, and that took me from the East Coast to the West Coast to the Midwest to the West Coast back to the East Coast. And during all of that time in the military, I ended my career in the Savannah, Georgia area. And so I was going to school at that point to become a certified surgical tech and a first assist. And unfortunate things that had happened, I wasn't the best person then. And unfortunately, my wife and I, and my ex-wife and I decided to split up. And so her and my daughter moved back up to the Pacific Northwest, and I finished my schooling down in Georgia. I was flying back and forth to Seattle and back just to see my daughter. And when I got done with school, I permanently moved up to the Tacoma area, and that was about 5.5 years ago. And I moved up here, received 50-50 custody with my daughter. So it was a major cultural change on top of just a hard time during my life, and with moving and going through a divorce and fighting for custody. And so I was just really lost and just trying to figure out my next move. And so I was going through surgery and realized how much time that I was missing with my daughter, and realized I had to do something differently in order for me to have a different outcome. And so even though I loved the doctors that I was working with, I decided to get into other things like direct sales, driving with Uber and Lyft, and then eventually started to build my own company. And so I started a company called Smart Advertisement, and I market and advertise for over 100 businesses here in the Tacoma area. We have some nonprofits that we work with, a couple musicians as well that we're helping manage and kind of get more events to, on top of working with podcasters. And as you know, Andy, and so that's really, to sum it up, I had a really, difficult time prior to my 30s, only because it was very self-reliant and I was doing everything I could for me to grow more. And so looking forward to where we're at now, it's more like who can help us help them. And it's really a situation where we're really in a position to serve more people regardless of what they can provide for us.
Right. Yeah. And that is, for the listeners who don't know, I met Tim through an Uber or Lyft ride, and we have since joined together, and you've got the radio show, the Be the Better Local, that we co-host. that's
Oh, yeah.
that's all part of your BD Local. Why don't you tell everybody just a little bit about what BD Local is all about?
Yeah,
That's part of your
sure.
big
So,
thing.
I mean, it's kind of boring saying that you're an advertisement company, and so what we wanted to do differently, and what we have done differently, is that we created a locals app for you, the local or the traveler, to download and go experience the town like a local through all the deals and coupons. And while you're waiting at your favorite cafe or coffee shop, go ahead and pop open what's new or what's hot, and you can be able to listen to Own Your Awkward podcast while you're on the go. And so this whole new app is what's been able to change the game here in Tacoma for our small businesses because of the platform that we have created for them. And so if you think of, billion-dollar corporations and some of those 3%ers, worldwide, Amazon and Uber and Lyft and Google and Facebook and Instagram, and you're starting to look at all these companies and why are they so big and what is the commonality? Well, they're all on the home screen of our phone. And so I took that same concept, developed it and gave it to the local businesses so they can now be on the home screen of locals' phones. And so for the most part, that is what BD Local is. It is an app that you can download and go experience the town like a local. It will be nationwide one day, but you don't currently have your favorite restaurant or cafe here in Tacoma, then go ahead and share locally your experience. And we tailor our app around you, the local. And so it's a really unique system. And so that's what we've been working on the last 2 years, and we have just been blessed with change. And one of those changes was the radio show. And that's where, Andy and I have done so much together in the last couple months. And this new vision is that we bring to life all of these local businesses and nonprofits and business districts and all these people that are very, very integrated with our community onto our show to kind of give them a new life, a voice, and not just a picture on our app. And so it's a really unique thing that we've been able to do, especially with you, Andy, and I appreciate it. And so now that we're looking into the New Year's, we went from hosting our own show under a AM radio station, and now we own our own podcast station where we will be hosting multiple shows. And so we are blessed. We are excited about what we have going on, and we're here to help anybody that is just wanting more out of life and tired of going through those stagnant times. We're going to be that company where people are already reaching out to help them become more aware in the local community.
Yeah, and it's such a great concept, and the thing that I love about doing the show is that it really brings the concept of the app to life, where we've got local restaurants, business owners, business districts. We've got people that are just in every aspect of the community, artists, musicians, coming together and sharing their story and letting people be aware of it. It's amazing.
Yeah, and it seems like the more that we are just consistent with what we have going on, it seems like we open our doors to more people. And that, I believe, is one of the biggest things that I've had to overcome, is that even though years ago when I was in surgery, we would work on, one patient at a time, and it's very, very detail-oriented, and I loved all that fact, and it was very euphoric in a stressful way, so it wasn't a bad stress, but it was a good stress, and but I was only helping one person at a time. And now, looking forward to what we are doing now and into the future, we're helping thousands and thousands of people. And so this is where I want to be, being able to help more people with what we have going on.
Yeah, it's awesome, and it's coming together. It's so cool to see. So, and so just so people know, if you have not listened to or watched Be the Better Local show, you can find it on Facebook on the BD Local page, and look for the lives or links in there to the rest of the thing. You can also download the app, and it's and Tim, it's under BD Local on both platforms, right? Or one's Backseat Driver, one's BD Local.
So right now, as small business owners may know, and as they listen into this podcast, things don't always go the way that you planned at first. And so, yes, for the iOS Apple operating system, so if you have an Apple, go to your App Store, look up BD Local. So BD being the first part, Local being the second part, and it should pop up. It's a pink and purple type app. The logo itself is a BD with a reversed B. And then on the Android system, so if you have a Samsung or a Galaxy Note or anything like that, it's Backseat Driver. So if you go to your Google Play Store, it's under Backseat Driver. So that's essentially what BD stands for, is that Backseat Driver, kind of giving you that upper hand, that little bit of knowledge. When you open up our app, you can kind of tell people where to go now and what to listen to and what's hot. And if you have friends in town or something like that, and like, where's there to go? And then you're in the back of a car and you speak up because now you're that backseat driver. And so it's
right.
it's fun being able to see it come through.
Yeah, and just right from the app, if you don't see something that's a local favorite place or your business or anything, you just suggest it as at a location. It's great.
Yeah, exactly, because we understand that, obviously I'm a local here to Tacoma now. I've been a local in many different cities, but, Andy, you're a local. You have experienced this life like I haven't. I've been all across the country. I don't know about yourself, but at the same time, I haven't been to everywhere you have been. I haven't experienced life like you have. So if you have those memories, those great memories, something that's, like you were saying, if it's your own business that you want to help promote, if it's somebody else's business because you already spend your money there, like, a barber or a hairdresser or a lawyer or a doctor, give us a chance to tailor our app around you, giving you some sort of deal or coupon to the places that you already spend your money. And so it's really, really fun knowing that we're not trying to change your life. We're only trying to enhance it. So,
and I think
it's beautiful.
And between the two of us, it creates a good combination of, I grew up here. I've lived here my whole life. I've traveled around, but as far as living someplace and knowing all the local things, there's a lot of things that I know that I've been to and that I've done, but experiencing the city from someone who's moved here and is learning about it, and even though you've been here a while now, but it opens up my eyes to things that I've driven by and never experienced too, where it's like, oh, I've been meaning to try this place. I haven't, or I didn't even know that was there. I never really go into that neighborhood.
Yeah.
And so it's good whether you're new or not. It's really helpful.
Yeah. And just for an example, I was, we had John Toller with Q Sciences on the other day with Be the Better Local Show. But he introduced me to another vegan restaurant that was, not even a half a mile away from the studio here in Tacoma. And my wife and I were just so used to going to Viva in the north end of the Proctor district that we were totally missing another vegan restaurant that's, not even a mile away from our house. And so that's what I love, is that you only know so much, and until, you either become an Uber and Lyft driver where you're driving all over the city and you see all these different things, or if you can have this app to be able to download and just see what's new. And even if you know every business on there, you may not have been into the business. So go experience it. Go have a night out or a date out or a luncheon, something like that, and go experience some of these businesses that have been here for decades. But then again, when we run into something new, we should have all that as well. And so that's what we love about what we have going on.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Tim, I like to put everybody on the spot, and you may have touched on it a little bit ago, but what is that awkward thing you've had to get over with to get over in order to get to where you are today?
Oh, man. This is
no pressure.
This is why yeah, I know, right? I think this is why I pushed off my homework with you so long, because I was trying to figure out that awkward thing that I had to jump over. And, speaking with you the other day, I had to say that the awkward part of my life that allowed me to grow into where I am now is that I had to accept my past in my past, I wasn't the best husband before. I wasn't the best son before. It seemed like everything that I was involved with, it was always falling short of the finish line. If it was my faith or, not making it as an Eagle Scout or, and then I had college sponsor, college, what do you call them? I don't go to college.
Scholarships?
But scholarships, yeah. You had scholarships to 3 different major colleges but I failed high school, and so I had to go take summer English class. And so when I realized when I moved up here and I needed a different life, I had to do something different. And so I chose to be a better person. I chose to serve people. I chose to accept the fact that who I was back then, if it was in high school, military, or my first marriage where things just weren't great at all, I had to accept it in order for me to realize that I could be better and I can change if I chose to change. And so I had to accept the fact that I wasn't perfect. I'm still not perfect, but what I've realized is the fact that the more that I accept the reality in situations, the more that I can realize that I'm not great versus thinking that I'm great at everything. And so I know that I'm not great at everything now, but I get to meet great people like you, Andy, like John Toller, like my wife, and I get to meet just great people that are helping me become better, and I, in return, want to become a better person for them. And so I think it's just accepting my past, and it's been hard because I'm a perfectionist and I wasn't perfect before. And I always had this filter of everything was perfect, but it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's
so
profound
now,
because... No, go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, and just now, just knowing that, me wanting to impact thousands and thousands, if not millions of people one day, I had to take myself out of that situation, because if you're always self-absorbed, you only see through one lens, and you're not receptive to be learning about someone else's testimony. And it's their testimony is what's going to change your life, because you can open up to see and empathize with them, and being able to show that compassion and that humanitarian side where you can serve others. But if you're always thinking about yourself and how you can get to the next level, and that's not my way, and my way's gotten me this far, it will only get you so far. So that's just my personal experience.
So how do you feel you came upon the idea that you needed to accept your past? Like, do you remember that moment, or did it develop over time, or was it one hardcore event that was in your slap in the face?
It continues. Yeah. It continues to develop over time. But there was a moment in my life where, I was separated from my ex-wife. I was separated from my daughter, the love of my life. And when I moved up here about 5.5 years ago, I just made a decision that if it wasn't honoring God in what I have, excuse me for those that don't believe in God, honoring my God in what I do, and if it's not shedding light, and if it's not bringing positivity to this world, I just chose not to feed into it. So if it was negativity from a friendship, I just chose not to talk to that friend anymore. And I took all of my positives from my entire past and tried to equate that into who I am now, so I can, because I've had amazing people in my life. I mean, you're an amazing person, Andy, and I appreciate you for all you do. And so even in this short period that I've known you, it's just, I want to mimic the great things that I see in you, so you can in return say, I helped change someone's life, and I can see it. And so, again, it's that go-giver part where it's I can talk all day about this stuff, and I appreciate this.
Yeah.
It's all about that go-giver stuff. I mean, it's about giving and receiving gifts, and I don't know.
Well, I think something that you mentioned there is so key, because you mentioned that you had to accept the good in the past. Because I think a lot of times when we think about accepting our past, we think about our failures and being okay with things that we weren't happy with. And that's a big part of moving forward. But for you to say you had to accept the positives in your life, that's huge, because you can then focus on that and realize that even though you may have had some shortcomings that you weren't happy with, that the positives are still a huge part of you, and you need to bring those into your life even more so than dealing with the things that you weren't happy with.
Oh, yes. I mean, you're nailing it right there, because, I am a firm believer on anything that you personally repeat into this world, you're feeding life into it. And I think we've talked about this before. If it wasn't our show, it's on a personal basis with you, Andy, but it's feeding life, and not to dumb down any major cultural issue, but if you're always talking about racism and going into something that is a very touchy subject for most people, why are we still talking about racism as if it is still existent? And so if you just eliminate not just the word, but the actions that follow that word that are the definition of that, then we have eliminated and extinct something that should be already. But unfortunately,
right, just take it out of the dictionary and don't give it life.
Yeah, so I mean, exactly. And so if you don't want something to be present in your life, then don't accept it. I mean, if that's gossip, if it's, a no, sometimes no's are great, but at the same time, you have to realize that there's more to life than that moment, that gossip, that racial slur. And if those people are in your life, then gear towards the people that are speaking life into it. I mean, if anybody knows the history in the biography of Rudy, the actual person that the movie was made out of, I mean, I got to meet him personally, and what was able to happen was that his story was that he wasn't even a Notre Dame student. He was actually a student at the community college. And at the community college, during his breaks, he would always be at Notre Dame. And what he would do is he would become friends with all the positive people in the administration building at Notre Dame. And everybody thought that he was a student because he was there so often. And he even spoke about his parents and how if you have one parent that is more positive than the other parent, then always go towards that more positive parent, because there's going to be times in your life that you need that person. And not saying all parents are, good or bad, or there's one that's better than the other, but, just those situational things that even at work, if you have a bad boss and you have a good boss, and, always shed light and talk to that good boss as much as possible, because they're the ones that are going to be encouraging you. And so if you're not having that daily affirmation or encouragement from somebody, find those people that are always giving it and just stick to those people. Because, I mean, that's just what has totally changed my life.
I think that is powerful, and it's so important, because negativity is such a trap, and as soon as you start having those conversations, you get sucked into it, and then it's harder to reach out and find the positive, because it really is stifling. And so the more you can do it from the beginning, the better, for sure.
Yeah. And I think, one of those other things that I had to learn was self-worth. In these past 5 years, and learning that even though that I was at the bottom totem pole in surgery, that my self-worth was worth more, and that even though that you may be a fry cook or a construction worker or whatever, and you're not making or living the life that you think you should live, just be the best person you can during that moment. Because it's only a stepping stone, and it's only, I wouldn't say the lack of imagination, but it's only the lack of willingness to change and move forward towards that dream and accepting that it should be you and not somebody else. We need to do another
right. Yeah,
podcast
you can go on for hours, right? Yeah. Well, no, and that's true because that comes through, I think, accepting your past, and especially if you're accepting the shortcomings as well as the gifts that you bring, then you do find the worth that you have a little bit easier. It's always a struggle, I think, for people to really view themselves on the same level that even their friends view them and such. But yeah,
it's everybody's own. It's everybody's own race. It's not. If you're looking at somebody and you're getting down on yourself because somebody has a podcast or somebody has a brand new car or something like that, just people don't. This is something we have chatted about before too, Andy. I mean, people don't realize that the Facebook and Instagram and all these social media pages don't see the struggle. They don't see the thousands of no's that we had to go through, or the tens of thousands of dollars of free advertisement that we had to give away in order to have two people say yes. There's just a big filter that people expect to see their life jumpstart to that Facebook filter without putting in that time, whatever that time is, enough time, whatever enough is, right? And
right.
I think we're both there. I mean, we're both, in a position where we're still putting in enough time to be able to build the businesses that we see in our 3 to 5 year plan.
Yeah, definitely. It's it is something that it's in your face so much with social media that you do have to take a step back and, like you say, gravitate towards the positive, whether it's the people that are posting good things, people that are posting encouraging things, or people around you. Surround yourself with all of that. We are getting down to just a couple minutes here. So before we go, is there any last words of wisdom or quote? You pumped us full of all sorts of good stuff. So not that you need to give more.
Well, I know. The last thing that was just on my mind was speaking some life into you, Andy, and just the things that you've been able to do and allow me as a person, as a husband, as a father to grow just knowing you, and that you are, the person that I want to be more like by owning your awkward more and accepting these challenges, because you are not afraid at all to be posting on social media at 3 a.m. the ugliness of trying to grind out your business. Most people only want to put that filtered photo up of a brand new studio with all this equipment. But, a month earlier, this had painting equipment in it, had nothing in it, and it was just a vision. And so I just want to say, anybody that's listening, definitely stick around Andy. He has lots of encouragement. He has lots of knowledge. And on top of that, that's all the stuff he knows. He knows more people than I can think of right now, and that's going to provide even more value to your listeners and your viewers, Andy, is because you don't rest to a point where you always want to grow. And so, last words of wisdom is just stick around Andy. He has lots to know.
Yeah, well,
he has lots to share.
Thank you so much.
And I look forward to seeing your growth personally with Andy, with Own Your Awkward and everything you have going on. And so anything that we can do to help, man, we're here for you. To all the viewers and listeners that will be listening into this later on, just stick around Andy, support him, and do everything we can to support our local friends and podcasters.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. I'm glad to hear that some of that's shining through. You see the struggle internally, so you always are pushing for it, and I'm glad to see that that's how I'm viewed by at least a few people. So I appreciate that, and likewise, I've really appreciated getting to know you, and for everybody that's listening too, definitely check out BD Local, check out Tim's stuff. He's got great things going on, and you really are all about community, which is something I strive to be more and more involved in. So I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, marrying a local, my wife Sadie, she definitely is the person that makes me want to be a better person on a daily basis. So because of people like you and my wife, we're doing everything we can to help out, my friend.
That is beautiful. Well, thank you so much for being on. Keep checking out each episode every week where we post a new episode, everybody, and we will see you next time. Thanks, Tim.
Yes. Oh, man, thank you so much, Andy. Own your awkward, guys.
All right. Take care.
All right, bye.
Thank you so much for listening in for today's show. Be sure to visit awkwardcareer.com to continue your journey. And of course, please like, subscribe, and share with your friends so they can find their awkward side and learn how to own it.